Hello. So this is my coming out video. I am 23 years old and it's been a long process for me. I'm still in this process of coming out, but I did want to make this video for all the people that helped me come out through their YouTube videos. I found that it was really helpful watching other people's YouTube videos talking about how they came out, because it was going through the same, I was going through the same things as other people, but I didn't realize it until I started watching it. So I thought if I could, share some stories and, maybe people can relate a bit, that would help them out and kind of realize that they're not alone. I think my coming out story goes back to about when I was 14, just after grade 8. I went to a summer camp and I felt like I really started enjoying hanging out with other guys, and I don't think I knew really what it was at the time. I mean, all through elementary school, I had crushes on girls, and as I went through high school, I started noticing that I had more crushes on other guys, and that I didn't really know, why. I think I started to understand what was going on, and I remember even watching a TV show because there was a character an actor that I thought was good looking, and I mean that. I still don't know why, if I really knew what was going on at that point. I started watching Degrassi, which was, had a gay character on that, and I think that really started helping me to understand what it was that I was going through. And although I always denied it, I was always curious to learn more about it. So in grade 9, I started, I think, looking at guys differently and being, thinking they were attractive, and that, again, it was just kind of something small. I didn't think much of it. I remember going out in grade 10, we went on to a Rocky Mountain trip out to British Columbia. I just remember being in the back of, the van going out there and just, sitting next to another guy, or our arms, rubbing, and or our arms next to each other. There's a part of me that liked that. I didn't really, again, these I think were small hints, but I guess I'm pretty slow on picking up on these things. In high school, I think I had a lot of friends, but at the same time, I often found myself, sitting at home on the weekends and the evenings. I didn't really go out a lot. I never got bullied, or I never had any problems like that. I don't think I've ever really been bullied in my life, which I'm really fortunate about. And I always feel like, I feel I'm fairly approachable, and everyone, enjoys, hanging out or, talking with me. And about grade 11, I started going out a bit, and I didn't want to drink because I was afraid that if I did, I would, I was never drunk before. I was afraid that if I did drink, I would do something or say something that, might give a hint that I like guys, or that I was different. And I feel like I do this less than I used to, but just trying every day not to do anything that might make me look gay, or say something that would make me say, hint someone that I was gay. So it's always this constant censorship that you're doing yourself, and it's stressful. At that point, I definitely knew, I was different, and I was, again, just at the beginning stages of starting to suppress it. I always seem happy and energetic, but it's I guess I'm not always feeling that deep down. So going into grade 12, I still had the same, crushes on different guys, and they didn't really do anything about it. I kind of suppressed it and just, kind of carried on with my my busy life. I went, I asked a girl out to grad, and, I went with a bunch of friends, and so that summer after high school, I got into a really good group of friends, and it was, it's what I really needed. Whenever I thought of myself being gay, I always, it kind of depressed me, and it was, it was not, it didn't make me feel good to think about it. So a lot of the time I tried to avoid it, but obviously, as probably all you know, that it's not something you can really avoid, or, not think about. It comes up every day. So as after high school and a lot of the parties I started going to, and where I drank, I also, every time I seemed to start drinking, it's for some reason started coming back, all those feelings. So it was hard for me every time I went out to a party. I started drinking, and then those feelings come back, and I started getting sad and depressed. And I do a pretty good job of hiding it, so my friends don't see that what's bothering me, and I try to suppress it. So I look like I'm having a good time, but really there's something else in my mind. So I mean, my friends they're great, and it's just unfortunate that every time I went out, I just ended up feeling sorry for myself. I think a lot of it had to do with seeing others, my friends, having girlfriends. In 2008, a bunch of my friends and I went down to Chicago for Lollapalooza. So it was a great trip, but it was also almost like a breaking point for me. It was one of my toughest moments in dealing with this. I'm not even sure what triggered it, but at one point it was in my head, and usually I'm pretty good at just like distracting myself, letting me think of something else. But at this time, it wasn't going away, and it was I was visibly upset that time. And one of my friends on the trip, kind of noticed this, and he's trying to comfort me. Like, what's going on? Is there did you lose money? Is a hotel charging you something? Was it a fight with another one of my friends on the trip? He kept trying to ask me and find out like what was wrong, and I kept just saying like it's fine, don't worry about it. But obviously, he knew that something was bothering me. So later that night I was just lying in the hotel bed, and he kept asking me these questions. It's like, is it a problem with a girl? And I just said no. Saying no to all these questions, and he said, is it a problem with a guy? And then there was about this 3-second awkward pause, and I just turned my head and said don't like, I don't want to talk about this. So I felt like I left some sort of hint there, but he never picked up on it. I'll jump ahead about a year. So beginning or late 2009, I went. I'm a huge traveler. I love traveling, so I wanted to do this big trip. I took a year off of school, and long story short, I went around the world, about 33 countries. What I did, I was a couch surf. So this is, I'm not sure if you know, but it's the website where you can stay with people for free wherever you go. So that's basically what I did everywhere I went. Amazing trip. I'm writing a book about it. Just I got lost in the desert. It was an earthquake in Chile. Relating back to my coming out story was I stayed with about a 30-year-old gay couch surfer in Dubai on New Year's Eve. So he was having a bunch of other gay people over for New Year's Eve, and you would have thought that this was a perfect opportunity for me to come out and talk to people that know what I'm going through, and it's so removed from it's not like there's no chance that they're gonna any of my friends or anyone back home is gonna find out I'm staying with these strangers and halfway around the world. I think what I wanted to do with this trip, this 8-month trip, was just have a good travel, have a good experience traveling. I didn't want to be worried and depressed the whole time thinking about myself being gay. It always seems to lead to a whole bunch of other issues. So I did a really good job of suppressing it and keeping it down, and not bringing it up a lot. But one of the points that hit me when I was staying with these couch surfers in Dubai was one of them was about, I'd say, late 40s, and he had just came out to his wife and children. So that was something that it made me think, just what is this something that I'm going to end up doing 30 years from now. It's sad because I've always wanted I still want that family, that wife and the kids, and that job and family, and that was the hardest thing I think I've come to deal with. So that was something that I think I noticed and I picked up on it, and I said to myself, I can't, I'm not going to do that to someone, lie to them basically for so long, pretending I'm something that I'm not. Later on that trip, I met up with 2 friends from high school in Chile, and one night we were out having a bottle of wine and talking about girls, and he kept prying. He's like, who do you like? Like, what's he's known me for a while. I never really talked about it with him, so he was fairly curious, and he was why. It's almost frustrating, why I wasn't telling him, and I really wanted, I think a portion of me wanted to tell him at that point, but I knew that I'd be traveling with him for the next 3 months or so, and I didn't want it to affect the trip or anything. So I just kind of, again, do what I do and push off the question. And again, those questions come up all the time. When you're with a bunch of guys, you're going to start talking about girls, and they, you got to rank them and whatnot. And for some, I just didn't want to at that point. What, I didn't want to come out yet, but I wasn't going to start lying, and it's just, so I kept avoiding the question. This is just kind of how I dealt with it. I remember at one point in the trip, I was doing this hike with those two friends from high school, and you spend a lot of time thinking when you're doing a 3-day hike. So I had this great idea that I would come back from my trip and ask out a girl. I don't know, I thought that would be the end of solving it, or at least I thought I would give it one last try, being like, you know what, I'll try dating a girl. We'll see, if I can change. I was still, denying it almost. I didn't want to admit it. I thought, I thought I would still never, admit I was gay. Yeah, I ended up coming back, and she already had a boyfriend, so that I never got to test that theory out. So I was now 21 after coming back from this trip, and I was going into university again, into the business program. I had a better idea of what I wanted to do. That trip changed my life in many ways. So I felt more outgoing and more sociable than I perhaps was. I was still 100% focused on denying that I was gay. It was never, it wasn't something I was going to deal with. It was, or I was going to deal with it another way, essentially. I think what I was really afraid, or not afraid of, but just that bothered me was the stereotype of, gays. And I felt like I didn't fit that stereotype, so I think that's what made it more difficult for me. So I think this is why, YouTube really helped me, was it showed me that there are a lot of different kinds of gay people. It's not, you're not just one type of person. So that I remember watching YouTube's, I think it was late 2010, and I started watching it. I think I had one of the biggest smiles on my face. I just realized, I'm not alone. It's there are other people that are going through this that are similar to me. So that was a huge, I think, breakthrough for me. I found I also had a lot of time to think about this when I'm studying. I'm always just in my room reading, a textbook, and if it's not interesting, my mind starts trailing off. But that's basically what happens in school. I would say, I'm in classes and you're dealing with, lots of subjects. I didn't want to think about it. It was distracting me. So I'm like, I'm just going to deal with my grades. I'll think about this, after exams were over. And I kept doing this cycle of, once exams were over, it was always something else that I'd be like, you know what, I'll just deal with this later. And it kept being that, pushing it off, pushing it off, pushing it off. And I think that's when I came, that's when I actually decided, this is actually consuming a lot of my time thinking about this. After watching the YouTube videos, I just decided, you know what, I need to come out. There's so much that told me that I needed to do this, the signs of, how long I've been dealing with this, and it just made sense that from watching what other people were going through that, it gets better, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. It was winter 2010, I decided I was going to come out, and I had said I was going to do it by 2012. So that was like crazy, that was a deadline though. I wanted to do it by then. I think that moment when I was studying and I had that thought that I'm actually going to come out, I think it was huge for me. I was, it was almost relieving just even admitting it to myself that I was going to do it. I often, when I say I'm going to do something, I do it. So I knew by saying that I'm going, I was going to come out. So it was already set. It was going to happen. It wasn't, this process of deciding to. It was just a matter of when I was going to do it. But at the end of that night, I ended up, I don't even think I ended up studying the rest of that night, but I moved it up, my deadline, to the summer of 2011. So I would just, I need to do this sooner. It's like, I can't push this off. I'm going to do this within 6 months. I think one of the biggest signs that made me realize I really needed to do this was at socials. There was this girl, and we started dancing, and I knew I wasn't into it, so it was just more that obvious, like, all right, you've made the right decision, this isn't, going down the other road isn't going to work. The following few months after I decided I was going to come out, I kept thinking about, what a good group of guy friends I had, and I didn't want anything to change. That was my biggest concern of, telling them I didn't know what I'm saying. I was having, such a good time with them, and, we've been friends for 4 years at that point, and I would just hate for anything to change, and that was my biggest fear of telling them. I couldn't even imagine, what it would be like if, they acted differently. And we have such a good dynamic, and it's good, it was something good, so I didn't want for that to change. And before coming out, I kept, every time I hung out with them, I was cherishing. I was like, this might be one of the last times it's everything's the same. Although I knew deep down it was something that was bothering me, and I couldn't keep this up for forever. So I was doing it for myself. I then set a new deadline for my coming out. This is it's coming earlier though. So I decided it was May 2011. That's when I was going to tell someone. So I didn't know, if I told, who do you tell first was kind of my thinking, and who would find out afterwards. Sometimes you tell one person and the next day everyone knows. You'll soon find out that's not the case. So I was waiting for my last exam to be over, again putting it off while exams, so I wouldn't get distracted or deal with any backlash, and it really consumed me. But at that point I knew I was ready to do this, and I kept watching YouTube videos, and it almost gave me that confidence, like they can do it, I can do it. It's and you feel so good after it. After exams, I had a big party at my house, a big barbecue. I mean, it was a really good night. Two of my hockey teams advanced in the playoffs, and I was just having a great night. Then we, after the barbecue and everything, we went out to another one of these socials or the bar, and it was a foam party. So again, and I see this girl that I danced with in the winter, and I was really drunk at this point, so we just ended up dancing again. And I guess saying dancing is it was a foam party, so it was basically like we were in the shower. It was very messy, but anyway, so my friends see this, and they start commenting on it the next day and that night, and being like, good for you, or giving high fives. And the worst part was that I remember being at that moment dancing, and how much I hated it. I was being basically a feeling I was forced into it. I mean she was a really nice girl, but I just I'm gay, so it wasn't what it didn't feel comfortable for me. And I remember all I was thinking is like, I just want to be at home in my bed. Like, I just don't want to deal with this. It was so uncomfortable. That was basically like, all right, this is 100% sure. You're gonna do this over the next couple of weeks. Maybe a week after that big party, that I decided it was the night. So a bunch of my friends, guy friends, were over at one of their places, so I decided to go over there, and this was the night. So when I got there, they weren't even home. They were out picking up beers. So I was sitting on their porch, just being like, all right, this is really nerve-wracking. This is, there's only one thing on my mind. So I think I got into it about maybe 50 minutes later. We're sitting around, and I think what I started was, I told them, remember that girl? I think there was a couple girls that I could tell were definitely interested in me at that point. So I was telling them about that. I was like, the girl at the bar and this other girl, and I was like, and they're like, they thought, I didn't know which one I wanted to date or something. So like, so what's the problem here? And I said I like neither of them. And then I think I just put my head down in my hands, and they didn't get it. I don't think they got it. And at this point, my heart was racing. Like, I've never felt it. Like, I could feel my shirt, like, just my heart beating, like, outside on my shirt. And I tried to say, I'm gay, and I couldn't. It was the weirdest thing. I've known, like, other people said that, but it's just, I couldn't say those words. I tried. It was like I was having, I was numb, basically, in my mouth. I couldn't say anything. And my face in my hands. And I said, you know what? I can't. I'm not going to talk about this now. If one of you guys want to go pick up some, I think they wanted some chips or something. I said, I'll tell what's up to whoever goes on a walk with me. So the funniest thing is, next thing I think they all did, they were all just searching their pockets for loose change. I mean, they really wanted to find out what was up, so they were just scrambling for money for some snacks. So one of my good friends, and I went for a walk, and one of them that I had traveled with earlier. And so he's like, so you don't know which one you like? And I just, at that point, I'm like, I'm gay. That was the first time I actually said it to someone, and that was huge. And then again, it was a great feeling, just, you know, telling that one person. You know, he was a bit shocked, and he's, you know, he was great about it though, which I kind of knew he was going to be about, you know, act that way, which was comforting. But I think he kind of wanted to, you know, ask me questions, almost like comfort me, you know, if I was having any problems. But at that point, I think I was just like, I don't even care. Like, this is, you know, I've been dealing with this for so long. I just wanted to tell you. So I think we talked, maybe it was about 15 minutes. You know, and he asked if I told my family. I said no. And before we went back to the house, he gave me a hug, and, you know, that was great. What was interesting is, so I don't think anyone even mentioned anything for about another month. I was walking home with a friend, and, you know, he brought it up. He's like, you know, that time when you know, you were kind of acting kind of weird, and, you know, something was up. And, you know, I said, you know, I think I told myself before, if anyone asked, I was going to tell them, but I didn't really want to bring it up again. But I was, you know, happy he did. He actually told me his brother was gay, and I didn't even know that. So that was, you know, it was like, wow, this is, you think you're the only person that, you know, deals with this kind of thing, but there's so many other people out there. No one else brought it up, and nothing changed, which was exactly what I wanted. But I only told two of the guys in the group, and I want to tell more, but it's been now 2 years, or, you know, over a year and a half, and nothing has changed. No one's, you know, even brought it up in conversation of the two guys I told. It was just like, I mean, it's almost like what I wanted, but at the same time, I was like, well, you know, like, aren't you gonna ask like anything? You know, in my head, they would end up telling, you know, the other guys, and the guys would tell, you know, the girls, and then everyone, you know, my huge group of friends would know, and then my brothers would find out because, you know, they're friends with some of my other friends, and then my family. I thought it would just, like, you know, everyone would find out, but no, they're making this difficult. I'm gonna have to, you know, tell more people, unless people know, and they're not saying anything. As far as telling my family, I feel like it's just an awkward conversation to bring up. I mean, I noticed that, you know, one of my friends, the first guy I told, he said things that, you know, made me know that he knew I was gay. He would be like, you know, I think we were talking about cars or something, and he said, no, that car's, and he paused, you know, usually he would say, you know, that car's gay or something, but he said, that car is not for me. So it was almost like I knew what he was going to say, but he changed it just, you know, it was just one of those things that you pick up on, and, you know, it makes you feel good that they're, you know, he's your friend, and he's not, you know, saying things that, you know, you're not going to appreciate. You know, like I said, nothing happened for so long. It was my New Year's Eve resolution for 2012 was to tell 5 people, and that's what I said. You know, I'm just going to tell 5 more. I was busy enough not to really have it bother me. And it was interesting, as I started going to high school for, you know, 2-3 years now, or university for 2-3 years, that I was getting this whole new group of friends, you know, just like, it was almost at the point where I didn't even know, you know, who my really good friends were. Were they, you know, my high school friends or the university friends that I see every day? And it was almost that, like, do I need to come out again to this group? It was end of August 2012 that I registered for a summer class. It was by far the best 10 days. It was basically a 10-day field trip. But I went with 3 other friends from the business faculty. This is where my coming out story starts picking up some steam. I know it's a very, very long story. Sorry about that. Before we drove out, we had we went to the university, and we kind of got our bags together and had a little briefing session. And like always, you know, you're in a new group and you look around, and I, you know, see this other guy, and it's like, oh yeah, you know, I have a crush on him. I think there was a couple people that started, you know, hinting that he was gay, and I was like, oh, maybe I can see that, but, you know, I thought he was, you know, attractive, and I kind of, okay, you know, maybe. It was about the 3rd day or so. I think, I don't even remember why I said this, but I think I brought up the topic of giving blood. You know, I'm not against it, but I hate needles, so I was just like, I never want to give blood. And I kind of got a few people talking about it, and then this one guy is like, yeah, no, I can't give blood. And I was like, why? And he's like, well, you know, there's the rule, or, you know, if you're, you know, homosexual, that you can't you can't donate blood. So that was, I think, when we were in the middle of a farm at this point, and I just kind of like, it shook me like, wow, like this, he's gay, and like I really like him. Maybe there's, maybe there's a good chance for me to do something about it. I think the next couple of days I was just, that's all I was thinking about. It took, I think it was about a day or two. I was trying to find the right opportunity, like pull him aside, and I just wanted to talk to him. I was just like, do you want to like go for a walk, sit in the swings or something? He was like, sure. So we sat down, and I just kind of told him, that I was gay, and I just asked him, what he went through. So we had a good talk for about maybe half an hour, and he was really, that was great. I mean, for me, just talking to someone about it, I never really had before. I mean, I think I wanted a bit more from that. I think we just got friends, and I was like, oh, that kind of sucks, but I'm not sure. I felt horrible. I don't know, the next couple of days, I was just like, why didn't this work out? The last night, everyone of this field trip, everyone just, started drinking. It was this big party in this small town, and so we were in this bar and drinking, and then another one of the guys, said like, let's go get some more beer. So I think we were going to get a wheelbarrow full of beer, but so we went back to where our campsite was to get beer. He asked me if I was gay, and I was like, kind of shocked, like why, like what he was basically getting at is he realized that this other guy was on the trip was gay, and that kind of shocked him because he was from a small town and he had never, heard or met anyone like that. And it wasn't very obvious, that this other guy was gay as well. So he was shocked, and he was going to almost, talk to me about, about that. And he was like, I was like, well, like, why are you asking? So it was almost like, I eventually said, yeah, I am. He was like, whoa. He was basically finding out like everyone he knew in the trip was gay somehow, and he never met anyone else before. So that was kind of funny. He was really interested. So he sat, we found this was in this school, this small town. So we sat down in the classroom. And he just wanted to talk to me about it, which was actually great for me because I said a lot of things that I think I needed to say and just talk to someone about. So we talked for about 20 minutes, and it was a really good conversation. Like I felt great after that, just because I hadn't come out to anyone since for a year and a half basically. So that was my first number one for New Year's resolution. So I'm like, all right, I needed to tell someone. So I told him, and that got me going. So that night, after we talked, we went back to the bar where people were drinking, and one of my good friends from the trip, from business faculty, asked, I think they were bugging me again about this girl, like, oh, you should ask her out on the trip, and like, do you want to talk about this? So we, I said, let's go outside. So it was really a memorable night, and a huge storm in the distance. And it was really windy out, and so we walked out in the dark, and she's like, what's up? She's like, well, I'm gay. So I told her, I guess the fourth person I've ever told, and it was starting to get easier, and she just felt really bad that that she was being like pressuring me to like ask this girl out. And then another two that my good guy friends from university came up, saw me talking to this girl outside that I just told, and I was debating. I'm like, should I tell him? She's like, no, don't. I was like, I'm just going to tell him. I was, I needed to get this off. So I told them, and, one of them was like, oh, I thought you liked this girl. And then this other guy was just like, I'm so excited for you. And it was just like this great feeling of everyone being, not only like supportive, but just, happy that, this is something that I was doing. So, or decided to do. So, I think that night I ended up telling about, maybe 4 other people. I was just like, again, these weren't some of my close friends, just people I met on the trip, but it was still good to be, like, I'm telling you that I'm gay, and they're like, oh, like, it wasn't in that weird context that I said it, but it was, it was a really fun night. So that was the beginning of September, and since then I told a couple more people that I go to university with, and I see them on a daily basis, and they've become pretty good friends. But I still haven't told these really good friends from high school that I've known for 6 years now. So that's This is why I say it's, it's a coming out process. I guess coming out story is a bit unique in the fact that it's still ongoing. I'm probably really delaying this, telling people, but I've been really wanting to tell, the other close guy friends. I mean, I'll eventually find the time and tell them. So that's my coming out story. I feel like it's only a half story, because I haven't come out to a lot of people that I still really want to, and I'm getting around to it. Maybe making this video will help me. If any of you YouTubers want to comment or have any questions for me, I will more than happy to reply, and talk about whatever you're going through. I may or may not make another video. I know I'm going to be extremely busy over the next month, but I did want to make this over kind of the Christmas break. I know that's when I watched a lot of videos because I had a lot of time. I think a lot of people are in the same boat, so I told myself I'd do it. Yeah, no, if anyone thinks I should make another video, I feel like I'm fairly have lots to talk about. I know my trip around the world and getting lost in the desert is kind of interesting, and I have a whole bunch of crazy stories, but yeah, you'll have to let me know if you want to hear them. Anyway, so thanks everyone for watching. If you watched the whole thing, I hope this helped at least someone, or was entertaining or enjoyable for you. So thanks again. Bye.